How long does it really take to learn Turkish? Can you become fluent in 6 months, a year, or is everyone just lying to you? In this video, we cut through all the BS using research and actual student data to show you what you can actually expect. Merhaba, I am Zeynep and I am a Turkish teacher of many years, and I'll tell you exactly where you should be standing at each stage of learning. Stick around because at the end I will also tell you what slows you down and what can make you learn even faster.
Start learning Turkish today with our free crash course, link in description.
A1 Beginner. At this level, you are expected to know very basic Turkish and everyday expressions and use simple phrases to introduce yourself and order food. You are expected to use some greetings, understand and use numbers, navigate shopping and basic travel situations. Roughly 300 to 600 active vocabulary words will get you started. It often takes about 60 to 100 study hours to get to this level, which means that you can study for 3 hours every day for 5 days a week and do this in 1 to 2 months. This is not easy, it is an intensive study schedule, but it is definitely possible if you do it. And by doing this, you will be able to do the A1 Tömer exam. A2 Elementary. At this level, you are expected to understand common sentences and frequently used expressions about familiar topics. Communicate in simple, routine situations, ask for directions, talk about family, make plans with friends, and handle travel arrangements. You will roughly double your vocabulary from A1 at this point. Think on the order of 1,000 to 1,500 words in total. Reaching A2 typically requires another 80 to 100 hours beyond A1, so it is something like 160 to 200 hours of studying in total, and at an intensive pace, this should take a little over 2 months on top of A1. And at this point, you should be able to sit the A2 Tömer exam. And by the way, if you are a person who wants to live in Turkey, this is the level of proficiency that is recommended. B1 Intermediate. B1 is where you start to become more competent, but don't expect fluency just yet. You are, however, expected to understand the main points of clear standard speech on familiar subjects, use more complex grammar, discuss personal interests, give simple opinions, and read short newspaper articles and understand the general idea. Expect to know roughly a couple of thousand words by B1, which should be somewhere between 1,200 and 2,000. Reaching B1 should take about several hundred hours of studying in total. So roughly speaking, this is like 300 to 350 hours from zero. And to get to this point in your studies, you need to put a few more months of intensive studying on top of what you already know. And at that point, you should be able to certify B1. B2, Upper Intermediate. B2 is a major milestone. This is the level where you can interact with fluency and spontaneity on a wide range of topics. You can understand the main ideas of complex text, you can debate, you can give opinions on familiar and unfamiliar matters. At this level, you are expected to start to read novels and follow news broadcasts to some level. At B2, your vocabulary will be on the order of 2,500 to 3,000 active words. Reaching B2 usually takes about 450 to 500 hours of studying. So in our intensive study pace scenario, this should be about 2.5 to 3 months on top of B1. In other words, plan roughly a year of studying to get to this point, which then should prepare you to be able to ace the B2 exam, which will open many doors. With this certification, you will be able to study, work and train in Turkey much more easily. C1 Advanced. Some universities require this level of proficiency. At this level, you are expected to understand demanding texts, express yourself fluently and spontaneously, comfortably navigate complex grammar, write clear, well-structured essays, read academic or professional materials, and engage in complex discussions. You'll know several thousand words, on the order of 5,000 to 8,000 active words by C1. Getting to C1 usually requires around 100 to 200 hours of studying on top of B2, so plan roughly a year and a half to get there from scratch. C2 Proficient. C2 is essentially mastery, a native-like level. So at this level, you are expected to understand virtually everything you hear and read, and summarize complex information, express yourself precisely, even on nuanced topics, grasp finer shades of meaning, read any Turkish literature and technical document, and understand idioms and subtleties. Estimates for C2 active vocabulary are on the order of 8,000 to 10,000 active words, comparable to that of an educated native speakers. Reaching C2 typically involves around 1,000 hours of studying. In practice, this often means living in Turkey or being in an immersive environment, which means that you are having daily interactions in Turkish, even though you may not live in Turkey. And at this stage, you are ready to ace the highest level of Tömer exams, the C2. There are, of course, some things that speed up your learning or slow it down. Let's talk about those things. And the first one is extremely common, and tell me in the comments if you are guilty of this, because I know that many of you tend to do this from my experience. It is wasting precious time on the internet looking at disorganized content without having a clear structure. So if you have a very good course that guides you, a textbook or teacher that give you guidance, then fine. Look at reels, look at this website, that video, whatever. These will add to your learning bank and these will be beneficial. But if you're trying to learn from scratch, if you're trying to learn Turkish by the means of these things like random things on the internet, then you're wasting time. Just don't do it. You need good structure. You need to focus on all 4 areas of learning, namely reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And if you want an excellent course that focuses on all of these and gives you excellent guidance, then I have the best one for you. You can check that out at the link in the description down below. So there is that. This is very important. The next thing is immersion. When we talked about C2, we mentioned immersion a tiny bit. We said that immersion happens when you have daily interactions in Turkish. This doesn't have to mean that you are interacting with a person. This can mean that you are interacting with a website. You're looking at it and it's in Turkish. And if you are looking at your phone and your phone is in Turkish. So surround yourself with Turkish. You need to see as much Turkish as possible. This will help with vocabulary, grammar, everything. Another thing is trying to go too fast with grammar and vocabulary. I think very strongly that going fast with either of those things or both of those things, actually with both of them, I don't know why I even said that, is going to hurt your learning speed, because your brain, I know, is a very capable organ, but it's only capable so much. There is a limit to how much you can learn and how much you can process and have like an active grasp of. So steady, slow and steady is key. Just take it slow, take it easy, like digest everything, take everything in and then move forward. That will be to your benefit. And then adding to that is studying consistently, but allowing yourself breaks. We talked about this intensive pace. I focused on this intensive pace being studying 5 days a week for 3 hours a day and then not studying for the other 2 days of the week. You can like space this out or like structure it however you like, but remember to give yourself breaks and don't cram the 3 hours like on top of each other. Within those 3 hours, give yourself breaks. Your brain needs breaks to like process things. You know, like when you sleep on something, especially new information, that's when learning happens, or a large portion or an important portion of learning happens. So allow yourself the time to take a break and be fine with it. Don't feel bad for taking breaks. Breaks are excellent for learning. Your brain needs to be in a calm state in order to be able to learn, or actually like process what it has learned, so that it's actually useful. So the final thing that I would like to mention is speaking. Speaking is the thing that falls behind usually. So start speaking as early as possible in your studies. This doesn't have to mean that you are speaking to an actual person. Speaking to yourself or reading out loud also counts for speaking, because it is the motor skills and the quick response like system that we are trying to work. I mean, of course, like if you're reading something, you are not like creating responses to that, but at least you are working the motor, the muscles and everything. So start speaking as early as possible. All right, so that concludes it. So tell me in the comments what kind of structure you are following. I love to read the comments, and I do read all the comments. And another thing you can do is to press the like button if you actually like this video. By liking the video and subscribing to the channel, you are telling us that you like this content. So we say, aha, okay, this is the type of content that we should continue to make. Go to this next video if you liked this one, in addition to liking and subscribing. See ya. Görüşürüz.